So, we want to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you,
I will second.
thank you. In favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. So we just took care of the whole consent agenda.
That's right.
I should have done it piece by piece, but I didn't.
No, the consent agenda is done as,
Yes, but
Yeah.
a lot of times we. So, that means we move right along to you.
Oh, boy.
We have Joanne Rabbit, who is our acting head of borrower services, AKA circulation, and has longtime page supervisor.
Right.
Glad to have you here with us, Joanne.
Well, this has been quite a year for us. Many changes. Of course, Michelle retired May 30th after many years of being, the head of the department. And I've been temporarily filling in as the head of circulation, and Susan's been covering, head of the page supervisor. We were really short-staffed during the summer. Susan and I interviewed several candidates to fill 2 part-time positions, and we hired and trained 2 new staff members, Jocelyn and Sarah. They're both teachers in other towns, and they're great. They work well with the public, and they're just, really nice people. Chandrika also took off 6 weeks to spend time with her new granddaughter, so that was another loss. And to add to all this, we began opening on weekends in the summer. So it was tricky. But I have to say that the circulation staff have been fabulous. They're very supportive and helpful in ensuring coverage. They worked with me. And I'm going to say a special thank you to Susan. I think we make a very good team. And all the other people in the department, Rasicia, Frank, Sarah K., Jackie, Chandrika, Gail, Sarah W., Jocelyn, Joanne W., Gory, and Kelly. Their flexibility helped to get us through many staffing issues. Being open on Saturdays and Sundays during the summer, some days were busier than others. Sundays overall were quieter. But we had some Saturdays that, were busier than others. And I think it depended on weather, vacations, a lot of things like that, and whether people knew, The good thing about being open 7 days a week is Mondays used to be crazy during the summer because we had been closed all weekend, and there was so many carts of material to check in. And now that, that isn't the case anymore. So that's a good thing. Rasicia was the recipient of the Sasta Vickers Scholarship. She received $1,000, which will help as she continues her studies at Mass College of Pharmacy. She is pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Pre-Medical Health Services. As I said before, Susan's been covering the pages over the last few months, and she's had to be flexible to accommodate the summer vacations and the activities, because we do have 2 pages that are high school students and 1 that's a college student. On top of all this, Angelo gave his notice and left on June 29th, so we then had to look for another page. And we hired and trained a new page in July. Her name is Bella. She was a former volunteer in the children's department, and she's a freshman at Norwood High. She completed her training in July and began covering a page shift the following day.
yeah.
But we made sure she shadowed a page during the shift first. All of the pages and most of the circulation staff have completed the mandatory conflict of interest training for the town. All the full-time staff in CERC have, completed it, and we only have 2 part-time staff that need to finish. To make a little note about the pages, I think right now we have 5, and we're kind of wondering if we should look into another page. But we have Mary Ann, Stephen, Chandrika, Bella, and James. I know that Clayton may know of someone that gave an application and they're an adult, which that's the hardest shift. When the kids are in school, it's hard to find a replacement, So, and I do have, I don't know if anyone would be interested in seeing the resignation letter that Angelo wrote a nice resignation letter when he left, so.
I can pass it around.
That's great.
You wanna see it?
Yeah,
We
sure.
can pass it around, sure. Thanks, Joanne.
You're welcome.
It has certainly been challenging being without a department head, and you stepping up and Susan stepping up as well has
Yeah.
helped out. And I know this, anytime we go through a transition, when somebody's been here as long as Michelle has been especially, it's a challenging time, and I really want to applaud you for how you and your department have risen to the occasion
Thank you.
with all the help, and it's
Thank
really
you.
commendable. And doing it with the best of spirit as well. I haven't heard, and maybe it's not getting to me, but I hear from other sources as well, that I haven't heard people really upset about the changes. Of course, we would like things to move faster, and we're
Right.
anxious to get a new head of the department in so that we can, and it's been longer than we'd hoped, but, we have good progress, and we
I
have some
think-
exciting candidates that we're
Yeah,
looking forward
and I
to.
think now we are in the groove, so we're
Yeah.
okay until, the new person comes along.
And you and I were talking earlier about the benefit to staff on Mondays over the summer,
Yes.
which is obviously reflective of the benefits that the community is experiencing because their items are being checked in quicker,
Right.
and they're able to discover things and get access to those materials so much faster than they were before.
It used
as
to
well.
be on a Monday that,
Things are just
there would be several carts of material to check out. It
which
was-
means nobody's
Right.
getting any access to them, so it
Right.
just increases availability, which is really a nice gift to the community. Yeah, thank you.
Joanne, I'm glad you shared that with us. That was a lovely letter from him.
Yes, yeah.
Very nice.
He said it was a nice job for him to have, as a first job, and he's a
Yeah.
nice, nice young man.
Okay. Shall we move on to personnel report and contract updates?
Joanne made me swear to be right next to her. I promised to be right by her if anybody had any questions. And usually we give people the opportunity to ask questions. If there are none,
Oh.
that's fine.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to give her and everyone an opportunity if there's interest.
No, but Joanne, thank you very much for stepping up. You and Susan, as you said, do make a good team. You make a great team. And it's Michelle did say to me on more than one occasion, I don't feel, I feel like when I'm leaving, everything will be in good hands because
Oh.
of you and Susan, So,
Thank you.
and everybody else knew that it would be
Yeah,
a
we
ring.
all work together,
There would, yeah,
which
there
is
would
really
be a-
nice.
Yes, so it's great, and she didn't have to have her name plastered up on that wall, that billboard wall. So that was great, her telephone number for anybody, that was great. So thank you for all you've done to make the transition, it's so seamless. Seemingly so seamless.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you, Joanne.
Okay. So Clayton, do you have a report?
I can talk about personnel. So we are giving priority to applicants for the head of borrower services. They came in by this morning. We are now reviewing them and have a team. We'll be doing first rounds of interviews and seeing where we go. We may consider extending because of the number of applications, and we're still, the position's open till filled. We obviously want to get the richest pool that we can. So if anybody's watching this and wondering if we haven't, depending upon when they may be watching a recording, I would certainly hope that they would reach out if they were interested in this position and see. Because it is far from closed. We are still considering all applicants, but pleased by who we have so far.
Good.
And the contract is the other part of this. There's no new hires to talk about. Susan did recently complete her first year fully with us, which was great, as we talk about various personnel issues. Lisa Ugliadoro, the head of HR, has talked in town department head meetings how all the contracts for all the unions in town are all set to expire at the end of the fiscal year. So they are starting negotiations this fall. And so we'll need to be, as we consider, we'll need to figure out how the trustees would like to position the library and how we'd like to position the library as we go into those negotiations. So we'll need to have I suspect a special executive session to discuss that. We'll know more as the timeline has been spelled out. And I believe really in Human Resources court right now, or the unions. I'm not sure how they'll be scheduled. But there will be hopefully some progress on that before our next meeting. And Sarah, I know you have quite the experience with how the timing on these has worked. I don't know if you have any feedback to share or advice for us as we move into this.
It has been a very different process each time. Sometimes the negotiations have gone very smoothly and very quickly, and sometimes they've taken quite a while, so.
Let's hope for smooth.
Yeah.
I think it's in everybody's favor.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as programming, if I may move on to that next item. There is a lot happening. I was talking with Kate and Liz earlier today. Today has alone been a very busy day. The most exciting thing, and I brought samples if you haven't seen yet, the Haunted House Challenge. They're rated from easy, moderate, hard, and very hard. It's a scavenger hunt with partners around the community. It's amazing the number of partners that are listed on the back of the card here from across Norwood. And the prizes that people have come forward, everybody who enters, every team that enters is entered in every card. Entry is entry in the raffle or in the drawing for the grand prize. It includes tickets to Norwood Theater, gift cards and Appertandies. I believe Lewis's also contributed. I should be careful with who I give credit to because I need to double check. But there's some amazing grand prizes. We had to say that we encourage all library staff to participate. There's a participation prize as well. Staff are not going to be eligible for the grand prizes. They're too grand. We said it would not be good optics if this went to somebody who was on staff. Yeah. So I encourage you. If you haven't seen these, I'll pass them around. It's really fun. I think the design is great. I'm really proud of the entire team who put it together, and great response from the community. So that's really the exciting program to talk about. There's a lot more happening this month too.
I'm a little surprised that the top level isn't called Diabolical for Halloween. I have seen that used so many different places.
Well, we always have room for more diabolical plans. This is good. Potential for further descent. I'm not sure what the way that goes.
So is there a registration deadline, or how do people?
There's a completion deadline, so you have to complete the cards by the end of the month before the drawing to be eligible. And you can use the Beanstack app, or you can just come and pick up one of these. You can also print them. You can find them online, so if you want to print your own, you can. Really, the deadline is to submit a fully completed card before the end of the month when we do the drawing. So. There was some great coverage, which will include some of the banned book week across the state. I was just seeing there were at least 75 libraries across the Commonwealth who participated. If you didn't see Celeste Bruno's email earlier today, I hope everybody is on her list. Yeah. The roundup of library news and everybody participating was great. It started with Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley did a piece just on Friday at the Randolph Library. I was asked by the director there if I had some connections and was able to connect her with Maura Didi from MBLC, who was able to go and represent Intellectual Freedom and Social Responsibility Committee in a special conversation about why banning books and censorship is such a challenge and is something that we need to be very vocal in confronting. Congresswoman Pressley talked about how her life was significantly impacted by literature and books when she was growing up, and was really eager to gather people around and figure out what she could do to support us to increase people's access to books. So
I think it was in that email that Reading was having a read-in. I thought that was cute. I'm sure they did too, the way they sort of phrased it, but yeah. Okay,
John is.
John, I'm sorry.
Some of the news sources I've been following have mentioned drives not only to ban individual books, but to close public libraries.
Oh, yes.
I haven't seen a lot of mention of that happening in Massachusetts or New England, but there are parts of the country where that's apparently pandemic.
There have been attempts in Massachusetts. I'm aware of some libraries and some communities in Western Mass where there have been forces that have attempted. They have been wildly unsuccessful so far in Massachusetts, with only a couple of people turning out to support such closing actions, with vast numbers of people coming out to support our libraries across the Commonwealth, which is encouraging. I do believe the studies that say that the people who have been conducting the challenges are a very small but vocal minority, at least, and I think that's true across the country. But sometimes that the volume is exceptionally offensive.
Well, sometimes a small group that knows where the levers are can create a lot of damage before anybody realizes there's a fight going on.
That's very true.
I read, the programming on the banned books. They said there's a group of 17 people who have instigated, I guess, almost all of the bans. They make up a list and people spread it out to each other, and then they go to their school boards and things like that. I also read today that a book was banned because the author's last name was gay.
Oh, yes. I saw the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gotta work on their filters. They're giving hate a bad name.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's something.
Anything else?
I encourage people to check out the calendar. There's
Yeah.
a very exciting local history program going on right now about life in Boston Harbor. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
On maintenance repair, the next item, things are going well. I continue to talk to Jason. The RFP to get a study is currently with the architects who originally drafted it. Hopefully that will be finalized soon. We'll see some action on that by the next meeting. I can only hope. On the big repair issues that we have in the building. The HVAC, if you're feeling, it's not feeling too cold today. In the building this morning, it was certainly cool because temperatures have been cool lately and they have not switched over to heat yet. So it's always something that happens kind of mid to late October as they try. I mean, we had some very hot days just last week. So when they try to figure out, if they switch us over to heat and then it's 80 degrees later that afternoon, nobody's happy with that either. So it's a challenging shoulder season. But that's neither here or there. That's just fall in New England.
That's falling,
Yeah.
very much like my house.
Yeah, exactly. I still need to take the windows out of units out of my
right.
house.
Okay.
So, and then we have Friends of the Library and the book sale coming up.
That's
Yes.
a big, exciting book sale. Yes, from all reports they have a large number of volunteers to help set up. Everyone seems to be in a better place than the spring as far as the level of anxiety seems to be much, much lower.
Good.
So I think they're lined up to be pretty successful. I know there's been a large social media presence, large push there, as well as in the schools as well. They've communicated through both the high school and I know it was in the middle school, but I think the grade schools as well. So hopefully it should be. And plus, on top of it, it looks like it's going to be a kind of rainy weekend, so that should help, have people looking for something to do. So I think it's going to be should be a pretty successful book sale.
Great.
Yeah.
For the sake of our people at home watching this, are you still in need of volunteers?
At this point, no.
Okay.
Right now, we're actually they had extra volunteers, so I believe the slots are all full. However, if you'd like to come to the book sale this coming weekend, and certainly if you want to help out or you want to ask while you're there, of course they'd be happy to take the help, as well as if you're not a friend of the library, it's a great opportunity to sign up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And there is an opportunity on the website to reach out to the friends if you're
Exactly.
interested in volunteering in the future. And
Yeah,
I know that
exactly.
there's a kind of a constant need because we're getting donations all throughout the year.
Right, exactly.
And with the new book sale room, I was talking with Catherine, and I know
Yeah.
she would love to get some additional help just managing the donations
Exactly.
and the space.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's just wonderful the way the Friends have rebuilt themselves
Mhm.
and are going forward so well with all of this. It's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's good to see because I know that, you know, they went through a lot there, but they definitely over the last year they're coming together and they're
That's
working hard, so
Revitalized.
yeah, definitely.
Correspondence?
Correspondence. I apologize for not including the articles in the packet on Friday. Thank you for asking me about that this morning. I don't know if people had time to read the two stories. I encourage you, if you didn't have quite time, to check them out later. Because there's an interesting New York Times article, as we talked about book banning earlier, and then Heath's feature story from public libraries.
Yes,
which
I
is-
just thought that was great. I just really liked it. It was very explanatory and it was very clear. And I thought that it was, I expected a little bit more like ranting or, you know, like, and just smooth and nice, and I thought it was wonderful, yeah.
Heath is getting great recognition. They have also been asked or been accepted to speak at the Public Library Association annual conference.
Yes,
nice.
which you said is a
Which is-
great
It
honor.
is a great honor.
Definitely.
Yeah,
That's
So
great. That's great.
Yes,
we are lucky to have them working with us.
yes. Okay, old business.
So I'm not aware of any meetings of trustee committees since we last met.
Yeah, how are we doing, George? Oh, the next one is George. Okay.
Yeah, the next one is me. Yeah, so I did get a chance to speak with Lisa, and where we left it was that our plan, as we had spoken about last time, was to kind of create a hybrid review process going forward, and she encouraged that greatly. Basically, the idea that she also provided was that kind of a multi-step process, if you will, where as a committee we can come up with the review questions that we will basically be asking ourselves to review the director's progress, go through that process. And then with that documentation as far as, you know, what the answers, the responses are, all of our comments are, then we create kind of a formal review document that we share with Clayton, where we divide it up into sections so that it'll be basically, we talk about all the positive things, like what we feel has been handled exceptionally, done very well. A second section where we could discuss things that perhaps could be done better, or that section could also be used to identify future projects that are on the horizon, or important events coming up, say, you know, like for instance, saying that, like, you know, again, if we were in the process, well, a good one would be talking about the repairing needs in the library. So how is that going to affect your role, and how are you going to help spearhead that? And then we can share it that way. It allows us to have a discussion more than just a review, where we can, you know, tell Clayton, basically, you've done this amazing job here, and then that way it gives you a chance to respond to that, and also at the same time provide more feedback as far as a little more insight as to perhaps what went into that. And then the third aspect of that, between, you know, talking about the positive aspects, talking about areas that might need increased performance, or upcoming horizon events that we need to be made aware of, we then have an opportunity for you to set goals for both yourself and the library, as well as a way to measure how these things might be met. And then she, you know, I suggested that, she also suggested that what the town's going to be moving forward with is trying to implement a system where there are multiple smaller reviews on a yearly basis.
To me too.
And so while that, you know, on a formal level, may not be something that you know, we'll have time to take on, I could certainly see us, you know, checking in, you know, maybe every 3 months or so, and saying, okay, you know, Clayton, you mentioned these horizon events, this and this and this. are we, how are we coming on those, and how do you feel things are going, and how are you feeling here in the library, and because obviously we are in constant communication with you, but on a more formal level, it might be good to have that documented. So I suggested that what we would do is that we would, as a committee, kind of draft those initial questions, like part of what we're going to be evaluating Clayton on, and then sharing that document with her before we go through the whole process, just to see if, from the town's perspective, again, it's under our purview, but to see, again, from the town's perspective, are we checking all the right boxes as far as what we should be asking? Is there anything we're missing or not? Or are there things we shouldn't be asking? Again, I don't think that is going to be any case, because we certainly have a lot of the previous documentation to work with, and
that's pretty much what she said to me, although you got more in depth. But she also did mention the little mini reviews that she wants to do throughout the town.
Well,
she says that you get a review once a year. You don't have time to improve yourself.
Yeah.
And if something's wrong, you're just perpetuating it. And I don't think that would be the case with Clayton, but just like anybody working at town hall, a little mini review saying, "Whoa," it might be very good. So I think it's a good idea.
I think so too, because it also can help Clayton in, again, so things have been, I'm thinking about our relationship as the library with the town. Has been wonderful, and there aren't any situations that I'm aware of that are causing friction. However, I can imagine cases where there would be, perhaps relationships that are frustrating, or events that occurred that need resolution, and if we don't, most of the time that business is attended to. However, from your perspective, if it's, if there's something that's irksome that you can't quite handle, or that isn't being handled with normal business, then, we should, be made aware of that in a formal manner, so that, again, it doesn't impact you negatively, and as well as make sure that things continue to transpire as they need to. So I guess we need to plan on a meeting. I mean, I don't know how you did this before, Sarah. Did everyone just think of questions to submit? I mean, I know you worked off the job description, but
we worked off the job description. We sent around what our evaluation document looked like if people wanted to tweak or change stuff. But pretty much the personnel committee was the one that had taken that, and everyone filled it out, sent it to one collection individual who compiled the information.
All right, so I can see us following pretty much a similar path with that, and this way, the entire board is, as we talked about, would be part of that process. Could take those questions, review them, edit them, add, suggest new questions, and then the personnel board could then review all of that, and then we could go through the process of then the actual formal, reviewing and commenting, and then again compile that and create that other document that we share with Clayton.
Good. John.
A couple of thoughts. Have you had access to the questions that were used in the last review of Clayton's predecessor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just put in a plug. I thought that was done very well, and there are a lot of good ideas there.
We have gotten a whole bunch, not only those, but a whole bunch of other evaluation forms too, so that we can see what kinds of things are suggested, and some of them are in one form and some of them are in another. And George spent a lot of time with HR. I spoke with them too. So that's what we're trying to do. But the kind of what we want to do is make sure everybody knows how to do everything. Like Lydia does cross-training. We're kind of trying to do that too with this, because if you get somebody new in a position and they don't know what they're doing, that's not a good thing. But if you can keep everybody informed. So
clarify something. Are you talking about the staff?
I'm talking about the
You're
trustees.
talking about the trustees, okay.
Yes, I'm talking about the trustees, so that, God forbid, something happened and we had a whole new board, and Sherry, who's the newest member, was the only one that knew anything. We would want it to be filled in quickly so that people didn't have to wonder what was going on all the time. So, you know, we just want to make sure people can do things that they need to be able to do. John?
Toward that end,
Yes.
one of the projects we might want to set for ourselves is to write a sort of a new trustee manual. When I came on board, I got a lot of information from the librarian, but it was not written down for the
Right.
most part. And I know that other organizations I've been involved with have tended to evolve in that direction. When there's enough information that they really need to pump in fast, they develop a manual. It could even be thought of as an adjunct to policies and procedures.
I've encouraged Clayton to make sure that everybody has the full copy of the trustees handbook from Massachusetts and a copy of the Massachusetts law. And we do have fairly new bylaws that we wrote that we can go by, but certainly that would be a good thing to think about. You know, it's what we want to do with our committees and with our things, and how everyone's going to learn what they need to know, so that people are not in the dark.
Yeah.
The other, if I could just finish my list, sorry.
Sorry.
The other comment I had was on this non-annual review. At the last place I worked, they had the annual review and everything was piled up on that. When I started there, they had a 6-month review, which was somewhat smaller, but really had most of the pieces there. It was treated seriously. And over time, it kind of withered away because the people at the top were particularly not interested in being reviewed that frequently themselves. As for the more frequent than biannual, that was handled informally. There was a certain schedule in which supervisors should get together with their supervisees on like a monthly basis and just chat about things. It was expected to be brief, informal, but allow for course corrections more frequently than every 6 months.
Lisa is the one who's doing that, and she wants to do it for the whole town, and that's what the town is on board with. And that's kind of the idea she had. She had every 2 months, more or less, and an informal chat. She said 10, 15 minutes. That was it.
Okay,
So-
then we're on the same
Yeah.
page more than I realized.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sherry.
Oh, I was just gonna follow up to the onboarding for folks, and maybe the easier thing would be to start with just a checklist, so that we're not creating a lot of material, but really just highlighting the types of things, or who you should talk to, what you should know, like the handbook.
Well, yeah, but the handbook you should have, because you
So-
need to know things and
Yeah.
look them up.
You got
But,
The
that's something
handbook
ad
could be
hoc
on the
committee
checklist.
Wanted
Did
to,
you
yeah,
want-
just do a check,
Yeah.
start with a checklist.
Yeah.
Sarah, did you want to? Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just gonna say that one of the roles of the chair, and honestly any member of our board, is to have at least a monthly meeting with Clayton anyway, to go through what's going on. So I'm not sure that what Lisa's proposing is
Lisa is
particularly different
proposing
from that.
an evaluation. She's not proposing a meeting between Clayton and I. She is proposing, and this isn't necessarily just us. She is going to do this throughout the town, and she will be giving us some kind of guidelines on it too. But what she's saying is just the board, maybe even in executive session, might come up with something that they want to talk or have Clayton made aware of, and we take care of it. You know, I don't see any problem communicating with Clayton, but there are problems in other parts of the town communicating with people, just because that's how things are in the world. And so I don't see any harm in it. And it's not really anything, it's not the same as me meeting with Clayton or you meeting with Clayton. You know, it's a little more What would you say, George? A review?
Well, it is more of a review, but I'm getting the sense that it's. I see it as an opportunity. So if we have Clayton set, we go through the process, and Clayton then sets some goals, for the library and for himself, and then it's merely an opportunity, like every 2 or 3 months, to say, how is that going, right? And do you want to adjust that goal? I mean, I think that's really what the primary opportunity is, and are there other challenges now? And again, I think the good thing is that the process we have now and the communication that we maintain pretty much handles all that. And I think from the town's perspective, it's more of making it more formal, to address that thing. So, I mean, maybe there's an opportunity to have that be an agenda item during our meetings, like every 3 months or every 6 months or something, as opposed to setting up a separate meeting to just formally do that. Maybe it's an opportunity to have that specific conversation, so it doesn't get lost. But I'm not really
Yeah,
sure
no, I
more
think
on
she's
that.
gonna have to clarify that a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
more.
Well, I'll just say I will be curious to see how this works out
Yeah.
because that is the nature of the meetings that I've been having with Clayton
Right.
all along.
Sure.
So
Sure, exactly.
It's, if I may, what everybody needs to be aware of is it's never just a meeting. There's time in advance to get ready for it on all sides. There's time afterwards to process what's been learned. And if that total time gets to be too large a fraction of the year, you have something that's been analogized to picking up the tomato plants every morning to see how they're growing. So I hope that when we learn more and more about what HR has in mind, it conforms very closely to what Sarah is describing. To the extent that it's sort of underwritten, then we have some latitude to try to take what we've learned and tack our version of it closer to what we know works.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also encourage that we look for chances to do that. Not to be resistant, but to be effective.
Exactly.
I just had two things I wanted to say. I always felt that the meetings, the monthly meetings with Clayton were to review what's happened, one, since the last meeting that we had together, and to discuss any problems. He brought me up to date on what was happening in the town, what was happening in the library, and we discussed any issues that we had, and I brought up anything that I had to discuss. It was I always felt it was a very pointed meeting, and came away feeling that when I came to this meeting, that everything that Clayton was going to discuss in this meeting, I had a good feeling that I understood what was being said. And not only that, I felt that I had a good understanding of things that were also going on in the library and in the town that affected the library. So I thought that meeting was about everything about what Clayton was doing as a director, what was going on in the library. I felt it was a very it was just what the woman in the town wanted the
Lisa.
meeting to be, Lisa. I felt that was the opportunity, and I felt that when I came, I had an agenda, and we had the opportunities to speak, and Clayton was very gracious about if the meeting went over, he let me go over. If he knew that I needed other people to come in and speak to a certain meeting, he would invite other members of the library to come in and speak to that, or he would tell me, I'll tell you to go speak to this person or that person. I felt like every minute of those meetings was vital, and I don't think there was any other bit of time that I needed, and if there was, I would just call Casey and say, do you think I could speak to Clayton for 10 or 15 minutes today or during the week to talk about this issue? So I felt that there was nothing more needed than that one time, whether it was 5 days before the meeting or even an hour before the meeting. I felt satiated in the fact that I had information and questions answered. And then the second thing I would like to ask is, can the personnel committee meet to talk about this director's evaluation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll set that up for sure.
So I think, I agree with you in what you say,
Yeah.
and I have similar meetings with Clayton,
Yeah,
but
I think that's all.
I
think
just, I don't
those-
know what she was getting at exactly, that,
Well, then I
you know.
think that if she asks,
Yeah.
then we should write down a format and give her, this is
What do you
what's
think, Joe?
discussed.
Well, I think that, to your point previously about certain areas of the town not having that communication, I think they have to formalize it
Yeah.
because it doesn't happen. These sort of meetings don't occur as far as like the entire department, and so I think there maybe areas where there is a question, and so it is really up to her to do that review process. So I would say let's see what she proposes, more so, and we can certainly make a decision based on that. I mean, obviously, if we only met twice a year, or there wasn't that direct line of communication, or if Clayton just was always in his office with the door closed, then we might need to force that kind of system. But I agree with you, Marguerite. It's like I never come to the meeting thinking I have no idea what's going on, or walk in the library and it's crazy and can't understand.
I've come to the library when it's crazy.
Well, yeah, but it's not the staff, so that's the good news. So and that's why. I mean, I think I just have to see what the complete proposal is about that, because I think we, the point is that I think all feel that we understand what's happening and the workings, and there's no question there. So to John's point, if it's if something formal that is adding time
Yeah.
on to discuss the same things that we're discussing, then
Right,
it's
then we
kind
can
of
just write,
superfluous.
we can just write up an outline of what goes on and hand it in to town hall.
Yeah,
And
if
just
that's
forward.
even necessary.
It seems to me there's also something worth mentioning, which is that the kind of meetings Marguerite's having, the kind of meetings most of the chairs have had, they're meetings to make sure everybody knows what everyone else needs to know about the routine day-to-day business and the strategic stuff and everything like that. It sounded to me from the beginning as if what Lisa's looking for is something to cover those instances where there's a performance problem or a communication problem between the department head and key constituencies, whether it's the trustees or the staff or the people being served. And those would not normally come up for discussion in a well-run operation that isn't undergone to do so. It'd be the meetings like Marguerite, like George, everybody's describing. Okay, so you've got a balancing act. If you put too much emphasis and formality on trying to make sure you spot these things before they happen, that could be disruptive in its own way. If you don't, you miss the very problems that Lisa's trying to make sure we always have a handle on. So I think that Lisa's the professional in this. We assume that what she's proposing has been tried many places and has proved to be effective. I think we need to look for dialogue and assume that some settling in adjustments may turn out to be necessary for the department. We are a unique department. We have a board of trustees. Everybody else would be talking about how the conversation should go on between Director Mizuko and the department head.
Lisa did offer herself up to come talk to our personnel board if we felt we wanted her to
Okay.
or needed it, so she's available to us.
Good.
But
Yeah.
we're doing the director's evaluation, we only just threw this bi-monthly evaluation on the table because she had brought it up, but that's not
Understood.
what we're,
Bi-monthly or biannual?
no, We do an annual evaluation of Clayton, and we do what she is suggesting for the town is every 2 months or so, just a little what's going on. So, but we'll let her worry about that.
Yeah, I think that's.
Anybody
that's
else
smart.
have anything about that? Okay. Clayton, support for the Norwood Cultural District?
So there is a planned meeting between two of the leaders from the Norwood Cultural Council, Joe Collins, who is the Economic Development Director for the town, and also a member of the Friends of Norwood Center, and we're going to do it here actually with myself. There was going to be a public meeting in a couple of weeks. That looks like it's being pushed forward because there's some more planning that needs to happen. But we are having a planning meeting actually on Thursday in just a couple of days. So I think I'll have more information there about I can bring back about what would be most helpful. There's been a letter drafted, which we talked about having the ad hoc committee come together and just endorse that letter. And what I think may be the best course of action will be to schedule a meeting at the ad hoc committee sometime between now and the November meeting, so that we can talk about what transpires in our planning meeting later this week, and make a recommendation to bring to this table in November. That would be my suggestion.
Could I ask for a clarification on cultural district? That's a term I haven't heard used before as something that sounds like it has an official status,
It
chopping
does.
up the town.
It's not so much chopping up the town, it's a way that it's an initiative across the state that's being sponsored by the Massachusetts Cultural Council, which is the funding body that has all the local cultural councils across the Commonwealth. But when there are cultural districts that have been officially designated, it both makes artists and people that are engaging in culture in the kind of the culture economy, if you will, in those districts, eligible for grant opportunities, both from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, but from other resources as well. And it's really, there's several examples, and that's just part of what I think the folks, those of us who are planning and are aware of other initiatives across the state would bring and share to make sure that it's something that does make a sense for Norwood to do. There's conversations, especially particular to Norwood, about, rather than carving it up or getting territorial, how do we look and make sure we're doing it in a united fashion and not setting parts of Norwood against any other part, but doing it in a way that lifts everyone up. That's a challenge that we have because they, I think, need to be contiguous in space. And so if we want to make sure we're recognizing the arts that are in South Norwood, in addition to artists that are in the center, that's why that's this frequent, is it district or districts? Because there's collectives and they're not all right next to each other. So what does it mean in our particular instance here? Those are questions that have not been answered yet.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, collecting donations. Well, I got the boxes in the lobby. We have a sign that Carla made, I believe, right? Carla made it? Yeah. And we'll just see how it goes. I have somebody to pick it up. And so it's sort of,
It was promised at the last meeting and now it's in effect.
yes.
So
Very
we are accepting donations.
Yes. So, human
Um,
food, any human useful things, like toothbrushes, toothpaste, and pet food. The only thing we can't accept is giant bags because the food pantry cannot break them up. They can't open them and split them up among people. If someone puts one in there, they can either give it to somebody who they know has a big dog or a couple of dogs, or I can give it to Lisa from the Humane Society, and she can take it over to Henry. So she said she would do that. So, John?
You just answered my question, thanks.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
also in the sign, there's some of the most helpful donations for the
Yes.
food pantry especially.
Yes.
So if you're looking for direction before going to the store, you can look at the sign.
Yes. So it's when you walk in the door, it's on the right, just at the corner there, that table. For now, anyway, there seems to be debate about where we're gonna put it, but as long as it's close enough to the door that people don't kill themselves carrying bags
Yeah,
in.
true.
You had someone come in, didn't you? Yes.
Yes, when I worked, when did I work? Sunday. Somebody brought some items in,
Oh,
the people food.
No.
not the-
Great.
We'll be working on publicity for it as well in the next,
Good.
there's been so much in October that some of the, it's
Yeah.
hard to be, it's impossible to talk about everything we're doing without things getting lost. So we try to be selective and
but I'm glad we
Often
got it
people
in
think-
before winter sets in, you know, because there's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas, and then there's bleak time when people, you know, so.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no landscaping work, there's no, a lot of other jobs that people do that don't have a lot of money, so
yeah, it can be
I worry about them.
the hunger months.
The
sometimes.
hunger months, yes,
Trying
thank
to,
you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
fight back the hunger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Patrons in the library,
They keep coming in. No specific incidences to report on tonight, though.
okay. Any new business?
I don't have any tonight.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody
Search
else-
warrants,
There have been none, and I have no miscellaneous advisories either.
okay. Anybody want to say anything? Well, then, we are at the end. Someone want to make a motion?
Move to adjourn?
And I'll second it along with Sarah.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Wow.
Great.
Thank you very
Surprising.
much.
November.
Yeah.